My name's Kevin Burke, and here are 8 myths about foreign aid. Myth number 1. There's a magic bullet that will lift poor people out of poverty. Economists and donors have spent a lot of time searching for the one instrument that's going to lift poor people out of poverty. It's not likely that one exists. Here are some examples of false cures. In the 1960s, we thought that we could get growth by filling the gap between a country's savings rate and some necessary amount of investment. That was a mistake because countries had an incentive to save less. Then we thought that providing primary education for everyone would lift poor people out of poverty. Now, we have almost universal primary education around the globe, but it's had virtually zero effect on growth. Then we thought that poor people were having too many kids, dividing their nation's resources too many ways. It turns out that people everywhere are having about as many kids as they'd like to. Then we tried to withhold aid unless a country made certain reforms that would help growth. But Western governments weren't happy that their foreign aid budgets weren't being spent, so they often gave the money to poor countries anyway. Now people are saying microfinance is going to give people the loan they need to build a business and get out of poverty. There's no doubt that microfinance is helping, but it's not true that people need one big loan to get out of poverty. Most poor people borrow or lend small amounts throughout the year to meet their cash flow needs. Growth is a complicated problem, and there's no single intervention that's going to lift people out of poverty. Myth number 2. More money is always better. Many people believe that if only we could get rich countries and donors to send more money, then we would be able to do meaningful work. But before we do that, we need to do better with the money that we have. For 50 years, we've been giving aid to poor countries, and we haven't been able to measure any meaningful effect of aid on growth. Spending more money in the same ways is not likely to make a difference. Money is often spent poorly. Aid money is spent hiring inexperienced consultants, siphoned off through corruption, or wasted purchasing useless or ineffective items. Furthermore, with a bad project design and without taking care of the details, more money will simply be spent ineffectively. How we spend money is as important as how much money we give. Myth number 3. Charities with low overhead are better than charities with high overhead. Donors think that they're wasting money if they donate to a charity with high overhead. It's actually far more likely that they're wasting it on the low overhead charity. Low overhead encourages skimping on all forms of administration, including hiring and paying for qualified staff. Because donors want low overhead, most charities do not evaluate their programs to see where money is being spent effectively and where it's being wasted. Without feedback, they'll waste far more money on their programs than on administration. Low overhead ratios also lead charities to favor high-cost programs over cheaper ones that are as effective. Overhead is not wasted money. If you're worried about wasted money, be more wary of unhelpful programs than bureaucratic spending. Overhead is not a good way to evaluate charities. Myth number 4. Earmarking money for sexy projects helps. Sexy projects are buzzwords, tangible items that get donors really excited, like building orphanages, houses, donating modern technology, or giving money for microfinance. Unfortunately, money for these causes is often wasted. After the tsunami in 2005, everyone wanted to give money for orphanages and boats. Much more money was spent on these causes than was actually necessary. Orphanages had trouble finding enough orphans to house, and some families actually abandoned their children at orphanages because they couldn't afford to feed them. If the money was not earmarked, it could have gone to helping those parents afford to keep their kids. NGOs also built way more boats than were actually lost in the tsunami, leading to overfishing and waste. Money is fungible, so the only result of earmarking your donation is that certain sexy projects will be overfunded. There's a whole lot of boring work that goes on in aid, like logistical support and helping people apply for government services. Beware of giving money for projects and causes that sound innately sexy. Myth number 5. Gifts in kind are useful donations. The only people who know what an area actually needs are the people who are on the ground in that area. Most gifts in kind may not be appropriate for the season or culture. For example, warm clothes for Haiti, expired medicines, or disaster areas need to import a lot of urgent equipment as fast as possible. Sending over your old goods can clog up ports and prevent more urgent shipments from getting through. NGOs also have to pay someone to go through all the gifts and sort out the useful ones from the non-useful ones. More generally, sending gifts in kind can increase aid dependency or destroy local markets. For example, someone who made or sold shoes in Haiti would not be able to compete against free shoes from abroad. Maybe you're concerned that if you give cash, the aid agency won't spend it effectively. But if you don't trust the agency with your cash, then why are you willing to give them your donated goods? And they might simply decide to sell whatever goods you've sent along and buy more useful ones. So unless you've spoken to someone in the region and they've specifically requested gifts in kind, it's better to give cash. Myth number 6. Brain drain is a bad thing. Some people worry that poor countries waste money training workers who plan to emigrate, or that when skilled workers leave a poor country, they leave that country worse off. These assumptions are false. Wages in the West for skilled workers are often 10 to 20 times as high as they are in the home country. These high wages give workers an incentive to invest in education, which they wouldn't have if they couldn't migrate. Earning a higher wage allows skilled workers to send more money home than they could ever make if they hadn't left. Workers also retain close ties to the nation of their birth, and many move back home later on. These workers often have leadership skills. For instance, 46 current heads of national government received their educations in the United States. From a human rights point of view, people everywhere have a right to freedom of movement. Allowing skilled workers to migrate to rich countries is not stealing labor from poor countries. More migration encourages more people in the home country to develop skills in the first place. Myth number 7. Foreign aid is the best way to help poor countries. We've been doing development and foreign aid for 50 years without having much effect on a poor country's level of growth. We do know 2 things that have made poor countries better off: free trade and immigration. Free trade makes U.S. consumers better off because the increased competition lowers prices. It also gives producers in poor countries access to markets around the world and lets them compete with richer producers in the United States. Free trade's effect on unemployment in the United States is mostly short-term and must be compared with the benefits to producers in poor countries and to consumers around the world. Right now, the economy of Haiti is destroyed. The best way to help Haitians is to allow them to immigrate to the United States, where they could find jobs and send money home. That will help the Haitian people much more than billions of dollars in development and foreign aid money. Unfortunately, our government is more interested in sending money than in actually helping Haitians. Here are some ways we can do better. The most important thing is to be aware of the difference between showing that you care and actually caring. Many people give money or wish to go volunteer because they're interested in showing other people that they care about the poor. It's good to want to show other people that you care, but it's important to do it in a way that helps reduce poverty. If you're going to give money, give to organizations that have worked in an area for a long time and have staff on the ground. Because they have local knowledge, they're the ones with the best chance of making a difference. Only give to organizations that evaluate the effectiveness of their programs. If you're worried about money being wasted, it's more likely that charities are wasting money on bad programs than on high overhead. Give cash. Cash is fungible and can be used to purchase the goods that will make the most difference. Most importantly, do some research for yourself, hold charities accountable, and spread the word about how to be smarter about foreign aid. Thanks very much. For more, take a look at the Give Well project, which evaluates the effectiveness of aid organizations and Bill Easterly's blog about foreign aid follies.